that hard? Oh, you got 20 kilos on there.
20.
Where does that work?
For the back.
Works your back?
For the glutes. Glutes.
That's why it's so cute. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry.
You getting your workout in?
Yeah.
How long are you going on the treadmill today?
15?
20 minutes?
Yes.
How far are you into now? 9 minutes in?
16.
16. Oh, 4 minutes to go. All right, go for the goal. I thought that I'd try something different for this video and basically cover what a typical day is like and the life of an expat vlogger here in the Philippines for Lynn and I. I thought maybe you'd find it kind of interesting what our typical day is like. And my hope is that by seeing these details of our day, that it gives you kind of a perspective of what it's like to be an expat who also happens to be a vlogger and who lives in the Philippines. So you get kind of a combination of things in our typical day. Now, just from a background perspective, Lynn has her own Facebook following. She's actually monetized there. So she mostly focuses on Facebook, and I mostly focus on YouTube. Lynn does do the posting for me on Island Expats on our Facebook channel. So if you haven't joined that, you should join that channel. And Lynn just typically takes whatever's going on that day, if we go out to dinner or meet with friends or whatever, and then post those things. So you'll see a lot of different things, but daily on the Island Expats Facebook channel. And then I typically post a video either once or twice a week. So our day starts around 6:30 in the morning. And the first thing we do is we get up and we head to the gym. And we try to get a morning workout pretty much Monday through Saturday is our routine. Sunday is our one day off, and then we actually go to church and then meet with friends afterwards. So that's our typical day, but we try to hit that gym 6 days a week. That's basically what we do. And I'll get a little bit more into the gym in just a minute. Lovey, you ready to go to the gym?
Yeah. Fix your silicone thing.
Oh, you're fixing the water bottles for me?
Yeah.
The silicone came out of that, right?
Yeah, come on. I see that it's
That's why it was leaking on me.
the water.
There we go. You ready for your morning workout?
Yes.
You gonna do this? You're gonna do your 20 minutes on the treadmill to start?
Mm-hmm.
And then what are you gonna work today? I think we're
Dumbbell.
second story, so a lot of dumbbells today.
Yeah.
Not the smart bells, the dumbbells.
Dumbbells.
Oh, we got our water. All right, we're gonna head out. So here's our truck. You know, this is a Ford Ranger. We bought it this last year in 2025 here in Bohol, and we really like it. It's a diesel. It's a 2-liter diesel with a turbo, and so here you have to pass on the main highways the trikes and slower scooters. It's been great. It gets incredible gas mileage. It's got this nice, bed here, which is filled with water because it's been raining today. That will empty out very quickly. Here's our little house that we rent here in Royal Palms. Nothing fancy, but it's affordable. So this is what the inside of our Ford Ranger looks like. We got Lovey driving here.
I'm his driver today.
Are you my driver?
Yeah, today.
I feel like I'm rich. You like chauffeur me around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got a really nice console, nice big screen. And then we have it paired with our phone. So we have Waze here, so we can find everything. This is something I have to constantly deal with are the dogs. And there's way too many of them. There's a cow. I'm sure we'll see a goat. This is what it looks driving through our neighborhood. Mostly locals outside of the subdivision. Okay, show us the turbo. Now when the turbo kicks in, there it goes. That's just another gear. Oh, it's great for all the passing and everything you have to do around here. Here's the gym. 3 stories. And then we're going to be 2nd story. So we break up our gym routine to alternating days between equipment that's what I call downstairs and upstairs. So that way we're working different body parts and allows us to work out 6 days a week. Lynn always likes to start with the treadmill to get her cardio in, and she usually puts in about 20 minutes of cardio to start the day. That's not always easy because that particular treadmill in the morning faces the sun, and it's behind a glass window and it kind of heats up. So that's one of the reasons I don't like to do that. And I've asked them to move the treadmills either more to the 3rd floor where it's open like the outside or not in the sun, but so far they haven't changed it. And this is where Lynn will do her first 20-25 minutes of her workout, warming up. How are you feeling this morning?
Treadmill first thing first.
Treadmill first thing. 20 minutes?
Yep.
All right, you go for the gold. For me, I just kind of prefer to go straight into the weights. And what I try to do is just not rest too long between sets. And that way I get a better kind of fitness type all around workout. And it's a little bit more cardiovascular than, just doing 10 reps of something and then waiting several minutes before the next. Is that hard? Oh, you got 20 kilos on there.
20.
Where does that work?
For the back.
Works your butt?
For the glutes.
That's why it's so cute? Does that hurt? Yeah?
Same.
So I typically work mostly the machines on the upstairs days, and then I'll work on the alternate days on chest and arms. I'll do a lot of bench press type stuff, and then I'll work on biceps and things like that. So we typically work out for about an hour, and so that's how we kind of start our day. From there, we head home, which is about a 10-minute drive from the gym, and sometimes we stop by the store along the way to pick something up or whatever. And it's a good time for me to kind of make phone calls back to the U.S. because during this time, it's actually in the afternoon, the previous day back in California. And so the time difference is about 16 hours or so. And so when I'm calling, like, let's say 9 a.m., 10 a.m., here in the Philippines, it's actually about 6 p.m. the day before. It's kind of interesting. So it kind of works out. I'm going to call my mom or whatever. So that's kind of our daily routine to kind of start out. And like I said, we take one day off, and that's kind of Sunday, and we take that slow and a little bit more time with friends and church and just hanging out, kind of slow things down. Once we come back from the gym and we're back home, then typically I head into my office and here at home, and then Lynn starts to cook breakfast and anything else she wants to work on. For me, I start off by tracking all the YouTube stats. I literally look at the views for each video each day. I look at the amount of time that people watch the videos and the total time of all videos and a lot of the statistics just to kind of see how the channel is trending. And that way I know whether if it's expanding, hopefully always, or if there's a little bit of a contraction. Sometimes seasonally, things slow down in the summertime for a lot of YouTubers, so that can happen. And I kind of have a dashboard that I use that gives me an overview of kind of what's happening. And it takes me about 15 minutes to fill in the stats each day. And that's kind of what I start with. Once I've got that done, I then respond to each of the comments on the channel. I really do my best to respond within 24 hours to all of the comments. And that's kind of a neat thing with the YouTube media. You get that chance to interact directly with whoever has the YouTube channel if they're willing to respond back to you. And then once breakfast is ready, Lynn will come and get me and we'll have breakfast together. And after breakfast, Lynn tends to do chores, laundry, whatever she needs to do, and then works on her Facebook account posts and her comments and that type of thing. And for me, my routine then is once kind of the YouTube stuff is done and caught up, I then go back and I take a look at my stock portfolio and I record any trades that I made either last night before I went to bed or early in the morning. The US market opens up Philippines time at 10:30 p.m. And when it gets into the spring, it'll be 9:30. And that'd be easier for me because I'm like 10 o'clock, I'm kind of done. I don't want to look at numbers and think strategy and all that kind of stuff. So I typically will more do the 4 a.m. Trading, and I'll get up for 4 o'clock and then I'll trade for the last hour. And so it goes from 4 to 5. And when it gets to spring, that'll be 5 to 6, and that'll be much easier, right? And I'm pretty much just picking up the last trading hour of the day. That's usually enough time. And then once I'm done, somewhere by 5:30 in the morning, I go back to bed for about an hour before we head to the gym. That way I get at least 7-8 hours sleep, hopefully. And like I said, the thing is, I'm very much a morning person. I can solve a lot of problems in the morning, but I really don't function well after 10 p.m. So it's usually the early morning shift for me. Or if I wake up during the night, I'll just check the account and see what's going on, what's up and what's down and all that. If the market's really active, then instead of getting up at 4 a.m., I get up at 3:30 a.m. But again, I'm only up for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then I go back to sleep. And usually when the market is correcting, right, and the stocks are coming down, that's when I spend most of my time on it. If the market is up, then I usually just let it ride. I mean, if it's profitable, I just let it go, unless I want to book some profits on some of the high flyers. And I can do that pretty quickly. I do look at charts and things to make sure my timing's right. And then I go back to sleep. So just a little bit about my stock stuff, not too much detail here, but I am very much a growth-oriented investor. I focus mostly on large cap stocks, meaning large companies, that tend to be safer investments, and they tend to have less volatility. I'm talking companies like Apple, Google, NVIDIA, and the like, right? And, I'm 62 years old. I probably should be 40% in bonds at this point from a safety standpoint. But since the stock market has been performing so strongly these last couple of years, I've been very focused on just stocks. So I'm actually not in bonds at this point, and I'm just riding it. But I will tell you that once you turn about 65 or above that, you really want to switch to at least a mix of 50% bonds and 50% stocks, or even 60% bonds to 40% stocks, depending upon what your risk tolerance is. Now, my risk tolerance is a bit high. I like to trade, so I'll really push the growth stocks as long as I possibly can, based upon what the company's fundamentals are, meaning their financials, right? Their balance sheet, cash flow, profit margin, all that. I'm going to look at all those things, debt, and that type of thing. And then once I'm in that company, when I'm trading it, then I'll look at some of the technical analysis charts to just better understand the entry and exit points. And so that's kind of my methodology, right? And I pretty much just focus on the macro trends that are going to move the market over time, right? So I'll stay in a stock as long as it's performing. And I'll have a thesis of why I own each stock. What is the reason? What is going to increase the stock price, right? And usually that's some type of macro trend. And if that trend continues, then I'll hold on to the stock. And if the trend changes, which sometimes it happens, then I'll quickly move on and unemotionally get out of it, right? Getting back to our typical day and off the stock stuff. Lynn and I are typically either working or running errands in the afternoon. So I'll work on the next video idea, I'll look at the strategy, I'll research it. I really got to make sure it's going to hit or at least be popular to a certain degree. And because YouTube is just making it harder and harder to get views. Sometimes we'll go out, especially on the real estate stuff, and I'll shoot on location. I'll go look at property, lots, homes, condos, whatever. And that's for those real estate videos that I like to make. And you know, we're always on the hunt for more of a permanent home here in the Philippines. And we really want to find a home with a lot and a house. And it takes a lot of time to learn areas and pricing and what's a good deal and not. So you'll be seeing more of those type of videos in the future as we continue our home search. We're renting now, and that's fine, but we have a longer term plan to buy. Now, there's a really strange thing that happened this week when we're out house hunting, and I thought I'd kind of share this story with you. So most of the listings here are on Facebook. There is no multiple listing service, which is crazy. I mean, we're talking 2026 now. There's not an MLS here like there is in the States where all of the homes are listed. You got to check Facebook. And so on Facebook, and then you got to get in a group that's that particular island and that particular city. And so you're really looking at Facebook groups to find the property, and that's where realtors post the listings, right? So I saw a listing on Facebook this week that looked kind of interesting, and I wanted to check it out. So I said, hey, I want to see this house. And he said, okay, just meet me on the side of the road. It's on the way, and we'll go from there. I can follow him to this lot in this house. So I show up there. I've never met this guy, and I figure out his car's in front of me, and so I kind of flash my brights, and off we go. And then when we show up at this house, which was an adventure hunt, usually the houses are pretty close to the main roads. This one, it was a couple hundred yards down through this windy path through muddy dirt. It had rained, and it was a mess. My truck was completely dirty by the time we got to the house. When we got to the house, there was a total of 4 people with him, and including himself, right? And no one even introduced themselves, who was the realtor or how this team was put together. And we just kind of met them in front of the house and then walked into the property, and the owner and his wife were waiting for us. And so we pretty much spoke exclusively with just the owners of the property. And they gave us a tour. And, so I had asked a friend of mine afterwards, it's such a weird experience. You have 4 people showing up to show you this house. They pretty much stayed in the background or out of the house. And why would this be? So my friend said, okay, after you've been in Bohol for a while, you'll begin to see that those 4 people, they all get a slice of the commission. And some of them are what they call finders. And that's what I've kind of seen here in the last 6 months. And the finders will basically post some of the listings on Facebook, and then they'll take you to the property, and then they'll contact the realtor that represent it, and then everybody gets a split of the commission. They may not be licensed. You probably don't need them, but that's how it often works. Well, the owner actually was very talkative and gave me all of the background about the house. And then when I asked him the price of the home, I mean, he literally talked to me 15 minutes nonstop about everything that happened in the house. But when I asked him about the price of the home, he then referred me to one of the ladies, which actually turned out to be his listing realtor. And so then she looked at me and said, okay, well, the price is X amount. And then kind of waited for my response. And then when I didn't say anything, it's kind of like the first one speaks loses. She said, but it's negotiable. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the dynamic, what's going on? So I talked to my friend who's lived here for a couple of years, and he said, look, basically, not everyone, but sometimes the realtor will actually quote a higher price than what the actual listing is to see if you'll go for it. Because if you do, they often get to keep the difference instead of it sending back to the owner. Now, this practice is totally illegal in the United States, but apparently in the Philippines it's legal. So if they can get you to pay a higher price, they get to keep the difference. And sometimes they communicate it with the owners, and sometimes they don't. So they do get a commission, and that gets split with whoever's involved, 2 people, 4 people. And then they get to keep, the difference. If they quote you like $1,000,000 more, it goes in their pocket. Pretty crazy. Now, usually, if the owner is present, they're not going to want to have this happen, right? They're not going to want to see the realtor benefit an extra $1,000,000 or $2 in their pocket. So you really want the owner present when you're going to view the property. And I would request that, because a lot of times that will keep this from happening. And really, what I try to do is deal directly with the owner whenever possible. I try to get their number, so let's follow up. I got questions. And that's what I basically try to do. I do know a couple of realtors that have very good reputations. So when I need to bring in a realtor to see a property, I will use those particular realtors, right? And I think those realtors would not do this practice because they would lose clients. Now, moving back to our day. Sometimes we'll travel to make destination videos. We'll go to a waterfall or some special place or special event. And we typically go to Cebu City by taking a 2-hour ferry from Panglao, Bohol, about every other month or so. And then we load up on supplies once we're there, because they have the S&R and the Landers kind of like big box stores, which is very much like Costco in the US. In fact, S&R actually carries some of the Costco Kirkland brands, like their vitamins. They actually carry Kirkland vitamins. So good quality, and that's kind of what we do. And if we go to Cebu, we have a couple of favorite places that we like to hit for dinner or lunch. Texas Roadhouse is one of them. And then Chili's and Ayala Mall, both in Ayala Mall. For some reason, the Chili's is like much better than the Chili's in the States. And you really get a good meal there. So if you're at the Ayala Mall area in Cebu City, check out those 2. There's also a Starbucks there if you want. That's why a lot of expats end up in Cebu City, a lot of familiar things. And then we usually stay at the Fairfield Inn there, which is a Marriott property, so I can use points or get points. That's in Mandaue City, which is about halfway between the airport in Mactan and the Ayala Mall. So it's a good kind of launching point. And the staff's super friendly there, and the food's pretty good, especially the breakfast buffet, so we like to stay there. All right, we get our points with Marriott too. All right, then as part of our week, we try to save Friday nights as a date night for us, right? So once a week we go out and we try a new restaurant, or we connect with some friends, and we like to go out and eat and just visit and have some fun, try some new places. And when we do that, we're always meeting new people, especially expats, which is a really fun part of being in the Philippines, because the expats are from all over the world, and you just never know what country they're going to be from, and it's very interesting to meet all these different type of people. And then here in Bohol, in the Panglao area, we typically go to what they call the Island City Mall, which is in the local city, Tagbilaran. It's about 20-25 minutes from our house. And that's where we get our groceries. We're a little bit more kind of like out in the country. I don't like city traffic, and so this is a good kind of compromise. There's resorts in this area. There's a lot of beaches in this area, and there's not much traffic. But once we drive over into the city, we're in it for like 10 minutes or so. And there's an Altura's grocery store, a big grocery store. Sometimes I joke, I feel like there's more employees than there are people in the store. I mean, at any given moment, there's somewhere between 50 and 100 employees that are helping you, bagging, checking you out, a lot of people. And of course, if we go to Altura's, we can find a lot of things that we like there, especially fruit and vegetables tend to be pretty good. And then they have a lot of other things, like a typical grocery store. It's quite large. But just outside of it now, they open up a Dairy Queen. So if we go there, that's our treat. We want to get one of those chocolate-dipped, soft-serve vanilla ice cream cones. And so that's our kind of special treat. And that'll be the main treat for the week, because we both love ice cream way too much. We stopped buying it from the grocery store because we'll end up having it every night. And it's not your friend, right? It's going to add extra weight pretty quickly. So we stopped doing that several months ago. And then the other area in Tagbilaran that we'll go to is called the BQ Mall area. It's downtown Tagbilaran, not far from the port. And that's got a really good grocery store there and has pretty good beef most of the time, which is hard to find here. And there's a few other items that expats like French's mustard, like yellow mustard, Vlasic pickle, some of the U.S. brands that they carry there. And most U.S. brands are not available, at least on the island of Bohol. There's a few things of the main brands, like you can get A1 over here, but a lot of seasonings are not here. Lawry's is not here. So if you're going to season meat and you're coming over here, bring Lawry's with you for sure. And there's also a local store here in Panglao that's called Cordova's, and it often has U.S. brands and a few other things from overseas. And there's some of the items you can't find elsewhere, like every once in a while they have sour cream, and I have never found sour cream in another store here in the Philippines. And it's really close to our gym, so we usually stop by once a week. They actually have pretty good beef. They supply some of the local restaurants, like Mahalo's that has a pretty good burger in Alana Beach. All right, back to the video stuff, the YouTube stuff. So lately, it seems like I'm like in YouTube jail, and I haven't done anything wrong, but I'm just not getting as many views as I used to get. And so I really want to make sure that my videos are being shown and all that type of thing. So I really have to focus on what's the concept of the video. I got to make sure it's got a really compelling but accurate title, and then thumbnail, same thing. I want to get your attention, but I'll never do clickbait because that pisses me off, right? I just want to tell you what the video is going to be about and then try to, creatively explain, hey, this is the topic you're going to see. So I do all of the YouTube stuff myself. This includes even the editing, which is in Premiere Pro, a really difficult program to learn, but it does work pretty good once you get used to it, right? It took me a full year to learn Premiere Pro. And so there are a lot of other programs that are probably easier, and it does crash quite a bit. So just FYI on that one. And as far as AI goes, I really kind of use it at the end of the process, either at the very beginning to kind of vet the concept and idea, and then at the end to make sure my title and my thumbnail is tight and compelling. So I don't use ChatGPT that much for that type of thing for video. I use it to ask questions on everything else in my life, but I don't typically use it too much. So my scripts and everything that I write for these videos are all original content. I feel that's the way it needs to be. I don't copy anybody, or nobody does the work for me, right? I just use it on AI to say, okay, here's the title, here's the concept. Help me kind of figure out from a design standpoint what would be the best thumbnail, and it gives me some suggestions, and then I pick what I want. But usually creatively, I kind of go the direction I feel is best. Now, that said, I do prefer to write out a script for most videos. And that way it just keeps me on point. And it forces me to have thought the topic all the way through. And I'm making the best use of your time by doing that. Now, when I go to record the video, I don't always use the script. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But by going through the process of just writing it out, it helps to kind of make sense of the topic for me and helps me to really process it. And when I write that script, it usually takes me about a half a day. And then I'll usually let it sit overnight, and then I'll read through it, and then I'll tighten it up, and then I'll go to record it. So I've just learned that for me, when I go off the script, I tend to talk too much, and the video tends to go too long, and that's not helpful for anybody, and I want to just kind of stay on point. So that's kind of how I use it. Sometimes I'll use an outline of points and just kind of talk to that, but I feel like that's a better use of the time. I hate these vloggers that just turn on the camera, don't have a plan, they're shooting what they're eating for breakfast, and it's just completely boring. So that's not what I do. Mine's always a little bit more of either topic or education or entertainment or something like that, right? Now I want to show you just some of my setups. You see what my equipment looks like and what I typically use. And for me, I really studied sound for a couple of years before even launching into the YouTube space. I was actually making product videos for a business I had. And so I really wanted good sound quality and to really get good performance out of the videos that I would make and make sure I've got a good professional camera. Because when I studied all of this stuff and I put myself through several filmmaking courses and I studied a lot of the voiceover guys and what they teach, and what I kind of learned is, and this was a great quote from George Lucas of Star Wars, that 50% of any movie experience comes at least from the audio. And if you think about Star Wars, they have all kinds of sounds and they use linguists in order to create languages, all kinds of stuff, right? It's all very much an audio thing. And then I'll add to that point that let's take the opposite of that. If your video has poor audio quality, it just gives the viewer a reason to leave. If your content's just okay, but the video audio quality is really good, people typically stay. And like I said, I edit everything into Premiere Pro, and sometimes it's a real pain because it does crash in the middle of the project. Sometimes they have updates and things like that with a bug in it, and it's really irritating. There's another program called DaVinci Resolve that I heard that during the COVID time period, they really focused on their product and really improved it. It might be a lot more stable. So at some point, I may switch it, but it's just, geez, learning another program takes a lot of time. And like I said, it took me a full 12 months to learn Premiere Pro. So it really is a professional level program, and sometimes it's used for, movies and commercials and all that type of thing. So switching to another program right now and the time and effort, I'd really have to have the time, be motivated to do that. All right, back to our day. So once we get through the afternoon, and I've worked on videos and editing and script writing and all that type of thing. Lynn and I, when we get to about 5 o'clock, that's when we churn everything off and we go for our evening walk. All right.
Okay, let's go, Papa.
You ready to go for a walk?
Yep.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's do this. Why so wet?
Yeah, it's been raining. It stopped raining about half an hour ago, and it's rained off and on today, so we're hoping we don't get wet. Do you want to bring an umbrella or no?
I think so.
I mean, it's supposed to be okay, but we don't know. Do you have a small one?
Yeah.
Is it in the car?
No, inside the house.
Okay, why don't we bring the umbrella?
I can.
Okay. We try to get in a solid hour. That usually takes us about 5 kilometers, which is about 3.1 miles. And it helps us just to kind of get caught up from the day. And if there's any open issues, anything's come up on her channel, my channel, we'll talk it through and kind of come up with resolutions. Sometimes we'll respond to some people that have written in on the fly while we're walking. And then after that, once we come home, we've kind of walked through the neighborhood. We usually say hello to a few neighbors, see what they're up to. And then we'll make dinner, and then to kind of end the evening, we typically will watch Netflix or YouTube, depending upon what's going on. Now, I usually like to get my news from YouTube first, so I'll kind of do that between 6 and 7 p.m. I'll get an update to kind of what's going on, like with Iran right now, or Venezuela, or back home. So that's typically what I do. Lynn's usually kind of finishing preparing dinner. And then after that, we'll switch over to movie. Lynn really likes to watch movies. And that's kind of fun for me because since Lynn likes movies and I love a good story, right? I'm all about a good story, especially when it's a little bit unpredictable, right? The funny thing is, as much as she loves movies, almost always she falls asleep halfway through them. So she's out on my lap by the time we get halfway through the movie. And if I'm being a nice guy, I'll turn it off right there and then we'll just finish it the next day. But every once in a while, if it's like, something like A Few Good Men or Band of Brothers or whatever, if it's a really good movie, then I'll watch it to the end. And then the next day I'll back up to where kind of we stopped and then we'll watch the rest from there. So, but there's classic movies from the 80s and 90s, fun to watch again, Braveheart, etc. And like I said, it's kind of fun for us because I'll search for my favorite movies, and most of them she hasn't seen yet. So like next on our list, which is kind of a fun movie, is Crazy Rich Asians. So if you haven't seen that, it's a pretty funny movie, and it's going to be new for her. She's never seen it before. So we're going to watch that. We were going to watch that last night, but now they've switched on Amazon Prime and Netflix. You have to pay for it, and we don't like to do that. We try to get the free movies, right? Anyway, that's kind of our typical day. And sometimes we'll have a visitor stop by also in the afternoon or the early evening, or we'll meet up for lunch or dinner with some friends. But that typically happens once or twice a week. But for us, lights are out at 10 p.m. or so, 10:30, because I got to get to sleep because I often have to, check the stocks by 4 a.m. All right. Well, I hope that was interesting. Gives you kind of what our typical day is like here in the Philippines. And I appreciate you watching. I hope you found it kind of interesting to see what an expat vlogger who lives in the Philippines, what their day is like and kind of what our surroundings are like. So I hope you enjoyed that. All right. That's going to do it for this week. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.